The market has gone through many changes in the last few months, and one of the biggest questions I'm getting from people that I know and from here on YouTube in the comments is whether they should buy or sell or even just wait until this pandemic passes over. So today I'm going to give you some valuable information that should help you come to a decision coming right up. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of the weekly Toronto Real Estate Market Update. If we're just meeting for the first time, I'm Fred Tam and welcome to my channel where I bring you the best real estate tips and latest market updates. New videos are out every single week where I share what's going on with Toronto housing as well as strategies to help you throughout your real estate journey. So if this is your first time tuning in, consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so now let's talk about the questions of should you buy or invest in the current market, or as a current homeowner, should you be selling in the current market? And both are valid questions you really need to be asking yourselves when it comes to making a move, especially when there's so much uncertainty with how the market is right now and with the unclear direction of where the market is heading over the next few months if Toronto does in fact get impacted by a second wave of the coronavirus. And last week I shared a graph of Australia's infection numbers because it illustrated the early periods of the pandemic compared to current infection numbers, which have been rising. And this comes to no surprise for many people because Australia is just about to finish their winter season, which is when people would have expected the virus to be more active. And if this is true, then we can potentially expect the number of cases to increase in Toronto throughout the fourth quarter this year. So this leads us back to the question of whether now is the right time to get into the real estate market as a buyer when we're just 3 weeks away from the fall season. And one way to approach this question is to understand the current state of the market and what we learned during the early months when the virus hit Toronto. So first, let's look at home inventory for the freehold housing market. You can see that home listings have been rising by an average of 9.6% per week ever since the lowest point in April, when we were seeing less than 200 homes getting listed on the market. Now fast forward 4.5 months to last week when we saw 741 new listings hit the market, an increase of 439% when we directly compare mid-April to where we are today, and also reflects roughly 1/3 of the total number of active listings. There are just under 2,400 homes for sale right now in Toronto. And one data point I want to draw your attention to is the number of listings that were also canceled, because this tells a story of what was on the market and eventually taken off the market. Looking at the past 3 weeks, canceled listings have been rising, but the increase is in proportion to the rising inventory, so I would actually say that there's no real concern here. And in contrast, you can see in April new listings that came out were almost a 1-to-1 ratio to what was taken off the market. So with housing supply being as high as it is, this is good news for buyers because they'll have more options which can help lead to lower selling prices. But now what about for current homeowners who are looking to get into the market? Is now a good time to sell your home? If we consider home inventory levels and what this can do to impact prices, then maybe perhaps now is not the best time to sell your home, but really depends on what your goals are. Because if you're looking to sell your home so that way you can buy and move somewhere else, then you're also in the same boat of possibly benefiting from a lower purchase price. And if we look at where home prices are today, you can see here that the average Toronto home price is down once again week over week, coming in at just over $1.38 million. And while home prices are still rebounding, they're not quite as high yet as what they were before the pandemic, and this can be expected to take some time depending on the area. At the peak in February, the average price for homes that sold was $1.57 million. But if you look at the last 2 months, home prices are fairly balanced overall. And some neighborhoods have recovered faster than others and are already seeing prices in their areas back up to what they would have expected. But one time period that a lot of people still talk about to this day, and that I'm also guilty of doing from time to time, is the hot market of 2017. And the one thing that we need to remind ourselves is that home buyers in 2017 were literally paying thousands of dollars more than appraised values in some cases, which led to inflated market prices and leaving this idea in people's minds of what today's market values should be. And I found a few examples of homes that sold recently for prices that are still not on par with what they were before. This home sold for $3.6 million late 2016. It sold again very recently for $3.3 million. And here's another that sold in 2019 for $2.3 million and sold again at the peak earlier this year for the exact same price. And this trend goes across other home types too. This is a semi-detached home that sold in 2017 for $900,000. And on the same street, a similar property a few houses down sold this month for $800,000. But do you think that comparing current home prices to what they were almost 4 years ago is still a relevant comparison? Leave your thoughts on this one in the comment section below, and Give this video a thumbs up if you're gaining value and learning something new from watching this video, because there are some people I know on the street and in the neighborhood who would actually argue that their home values should be in that $900,000 range in today's market, which probably isn't a good comparison to make, and you should always use the most relevant and updated information available based on recent sales activity. In fact, the number of homes that sold last week dropped slightly by 3%, with just under 400 homes that sold. And you can see that sales overall have been trending up with a noticeable increase since the end of June. Sales per week are in fact higher right now compared to what we saw earlier this year, and are also very similar to levels we saw at the peak of 2019. Home prices, sales, and inventory are all expected to fall in the future as government support dries up. But one thing's for sure is that this hasn't happened yet in the freehold or condo market. Similar to freehold properties, condo inventory also continues to rise. There were just under 1,200 condos listed last week, which makes up 23% of the available condo inventory currently available, with more than 5,000 condo units for sale in Toronto. And the number of canceled condo listings are also increasing every week. There were 528 listings taken off the market, representing about 10% of what's for sale right now and almost half of what was listed. And the increase in condo inventory likely shares a correlation with the number of condos previously used as short-term rentals, such as Airbnbs, which is currently no longer an option for many landlords and investors. In fact, inventory is also increasing in the rental market, and a lot of them are renting out as semi or fully furnished units, with lower rental rates leaving more power in the hands of residential tenants over landlords. And naturally, this also leaves some investors or potential investors wondering if it's worth buying at this time, given that tenants might have lowered expectations of monthly rent prices in the current market. But if you are considering a condo unit as an investment purchase, of course, many months ago would have been an ideal time at the beginning of the pandemic, when overall average prices dropped by 17%, but now can still be a great time to get into the market. And without knowing where prices are headed in the third and fourth quarter this year, condos are still considered to be a bargain compared to earlier this year. Because although last week the average condo price went up by 3%, to $696,000, condo prices are still down in several parts of Toronto compared to earlier this year, and you can see that prices have been making their way back up as more buyers enter the market. But in all honesty, prices don't really need to climb that much right now, and just a little bit of patience can help you keep more money in your pockets. Because if condo inventory is rising, then as a buyer, you have more options available to you. And the rise in inventory is also found noticeable with the rate at which sales were taking place. There was strong momentum with condo sales rising throughout June and July, but over the past 4 weeks, condo sales have been trending down, falling to 346 units that sold last week. And you'll notice we're actually seeing similar sales volumes that compare to last year during this time. Okay, so now let's quickly recap on what we just talked about. Home prices in the freehold market have been fluctuating around the same levels for several weeks, but are showing a slight downward trend for the past 2 weeks. And I definitely want to see at least 2 or 3 more weeks of activity before I consider this to be in the red. The number of homes selling per week has been trending up ever since the end of June, which is a positive sign of strong market activity. And since home inventory is also rising, this could lead to a buyer's market, especially if home prices do in fact come back down, whether it's due to a second wave of the pandemic or through the increase in supply alone. Because I'm noticing that almost 80% of listings in specific areas are no longer requesting specific days for offers to come in, which is just another way of saying that offers are welcome anytime, and there's less chance for buyers to compete in multiple offers. On the other hand, as a seller, if you're in no rush to make a move, but you still want to make a move at some point in the near future and purchase a new home, waiting to list your home on the market isn't a terrible option, but I do caution that listing now or later in hopes to get a higher price also means that you will likely be purchasing at a higher price as well. Now with condos, prices are rising despite condo sales showing signs of decreased activity overall, and with inventory rising. So if you are a buyer looking to purchase a condo, definitely keep these updates in the back of your mind when you're looking at homes and about to make an offer, because in many cases right now, and depending on location, there shouldn't be a reason to pay more than the asking price, especially if the listing price accurately reflects market value. And if you're looking to sell your condo, be cautious of the competition since inventory is rising. You might not want to compete directly with your neighbors, since this could impact the sale price and overall saleability of your home. And if we do get a second wave similar to what Australia experienced, then it's possible we might see yet another interesting and slow real estate market. And to stay updated on where the Toronto market is headed, with changes happening every single week, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.